Welcome to the Psychic Kitchen podcast. We have Ria Barna of Temple of the Sun, if I remember correctly. How you doing today, Miss Ria?
Hey, I'm awesome, Thomas. Thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here with you guys. Also, Temple of the Sun, also Master Light Blasters is kind of the primary group that I'm channeling, but that's a private group. But if anyone is interested, I'd be more than happy to add them.
I've also put your TikTok profile down below, scrolling down below, so people can follow you on TikTok, because that's obviously it.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, lots of little information deposits on TikTok, mini channelings.
Indeed. So, Ria, it's great to have you with us. Would you like to just tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do?
Sure. So Thomas just asked me backstage what modality I use, and like those kind of questions, it's so hard to put something in a box. But if I had to sum up who I am or what I do, it's just really being available to the divinity within me in many, many different capacities, any way, shape, or form that pure source energy wants to come through me. So obviously I do like oracles, tarot, some energy work and that kind of thing. But I would say I'm a truth seeker, and I seek the truth in everything available before me, because I know it is all me, and it's the way that that I communicate with the all within me.
Exactly. And I mean, we've worked together for a few years now. We started off in the same channeling group, spiritual group, and we've done lives together. And one thing, and we were speaking about this just before we come on, how everything can be interpreted. And I've done lives with you where you've drawn seashells and been able to give a reading from just drawing someone some seashells. And so it's all about interpretation. I know you do a lot of interpretation, and everything you'll see when you're running or whatever, you'll record a clip. I know I've just seen this. I see this is a sort of interpretation. This is the way I perceive this. And I find that amazing about you, how you can just take something and you can see into it more. So it's more than just a physical thing. You can see the energy that surrounds it and what that could represent. And I really like that, because, like you say, everything's an aspect of us. And how have you always done that, even before we started the sort of we sort of connected on that channeling group?
I have always connected to a truth within me where I would see or perceive the outside information as not being pure and not bad, not good, not the full truth of it. So how I interpret life is through the frequency of my own energy. Like all of us have that capability. We see through the lens of our own frequency. But in this stage in our evolution, we're integrating as opposed to dissipating. So all of life is showing us any area that we're calling pieces back, or needing to accept thyself, or any sort of energy that we are perceiving outside of us is calling us back to connect to that energy within us. So there's everything is truth, and from my perspective, everything is God, right? But God is all from my perspective, and everything has its own frequency, and its own frequency is its own dimension in its own world. So I know I'm getting off track here. So yeah, I've always been connected to that truth within my heart. And I've always, when things did not sit with me, I'd be like, well, that can't be the truth. God, if God is love and love is all, what is there to fear? Or why would God try to trick me with a devil? Or why would we be sinful? And how are we born into sin again if we are God source energy? So those concepts that sometimes we learn through Catholicism or religion or our parents or even non-religious things in society, I've always had that sense of divine love, and what isn't reflecting that in the fullness or the purity that it can be. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, exactly.
So right now, like, oh my God. So on our ascensional journey, ascending is just allowing and embodying more of that truth, more of that God source energy, more of that divinity within us. So the more and more and more that we're integrating, and life is us. Life is that projection that we see our own lens, which is a frequency, which allows us to integrate. So as we do that, there's less labels, less definition, less fear, less this, less that, because we are in a state of allowing that projection and relating and knowing there is no energy separate from us. Like even the two of you, like it is an honor to engage with the frequency that you guys are embodying, because really it's giving me an opportunity to converse, to experience another aspect of myself. And that is all of life. That's everything. That's everything. Right? That's garbage you see on the road. And it's never the substance. It's how does that make you feel? So some people might see garbage and say, oh my God, and what stupid people throw garbage on the ground. Someone else might see it as, oh, a bottle, a deposit. Or others might see it like me. I saw a bottle and it was a brewing company and it said Athletic Brew. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's really interesting. That's a sign and a message for me. So it's not what we see, what we do. Well, it is the feeling, because that is what is real, is how does it make you feel? And however it makes you feel, if it doesn't feel peaceful, harmonious, then there's something there that we need to accept or see or find the deeper truth in it. If God is ultimately just energy, and the energy in its purest form, which is love, which is unconditional, which is no judgment, which is no punishment, which is just is, it is, then all is, but we define it through the frequency that we're embodying. And when something doesn't sit well, it's up to us to say, why am I feeling this about that? It's never about the relationship, the person, environment, the vehicle, my vehicle. When I have a problem with my truck, I'm like, how, like I have my human part. What now? What now am I trying to learn? But it's always reflecting a piece of me. My suspension was so screwed up at one point, but I was really off balance. I was shifting to a new vibration. And that's another thing I want to hit on really, really quick. Even in our spiritual concepts, we can clog ourselves up, trap ourselves, because we think we're always learning, or I've got to take the higher road, or I got to be kinder. But really, it's not even about that. It's about accepting the feelings that you're feeling when whatever you're experiencing, right? So it's about like I just had a situation, and I was being kind of not coerced, but convinced you need to hang out and get along with this person because they're family. And then typically I would, I open my doors up to anyone. I'm unconditionally loving, but sometimes that can trip us up because we're not respecting our own energy. So sometimes things that happen that are not pleasant outside of us are showing us not that we're doing anything wrong, just that we need to allow and accept what we feel and honor that, not push ourselves. So there's a lot of even spiritual concepts that are being broken right now, that being expanding upon. Really, it's all about accepting self, because if you accept self, you're accepting God, and then you can accept everything, and then you just know everything is you, and there's no judgment, and there's no shame, there's no guilt. It's just your soul coming to experience a frequency in life. Even though it's an illusion, we need that illusion to have that relationship with ourselves.
Yeah, totally. I like it when you get in the flow. So.
I don't know. Sometimes it just takes me somewhere else. So it's just like, yo, rein it in. That's not what I want to know.
But so it's kind of not what we see, it's how we see it in a sense. And
how we see it, and how we see it through our frequency, but it's not even what we're seeing. What are we feeling about what we see? What is it conjuring up within you that needs healing or accepting, or just acceptance? It all comes down to acceptance. Everything comes down to self-acceptance. And then you're accepting the God Almighty. You are that God in physical, even though you don't have the fullness of it, because we're limited for that reason in order to have the experience of self-realization and to embody. So we're already whole. We're already God's source energy. We're already all that, but we came into this, I believe, this physical limited form in order to actually embody that very energy we are as a human. How awesome. It's not just in theory. It's not just a thought. We came, I believe, in this state in our evolution to embody, you could call it God or Christ energy, which is just unconditional love. What is that? Acceptance, love, non-judgment. So just, yeah.
I know what you mean. And something you said, God is all, and I think it's one of the, I read the Kybalion a while ago, a few years ago, and I think one of the principles is that the mind is all. So does that make God the mind?
All right. There's no greater like joy for me than when my heart, that spirit clicks with my mind, and my mind rises and breaks free of a limited belief. So I think it's never this or that. It's always this and that. So everything to me is a paradox. Like they say that our world or our life is an illusion and it's not real, but yet we need that in order to grow and expand and to connect and become self-realized, right? So our mind, I don't think if it depends on what you mean by that. So they say God is the imagination of the mind. So it's free. God is the mind as well, but we can be experiencing limited frequencies by our mind, which we may call ego, but we're always calling for that expansion. We're always calling for that truth. So to me, the mind works symbiotically with God mind, and the ego mind, it's a blessing, but the ego, if the ego mind, the human part, bases its experience on past experiences. So the God mind, to me, for me, is about expanding beyond the limitations of the ego, and then it all just intermeshes and expands. So nothing is outside of God. Nothing is outside of God. It depends what you mean. God is mind. God is mind. God is all. God is heart. God is everything. But to me, it's almost like if they say we started from this one source and then shoop, everything fractalized out. We've fractalized out as much as we can. And now I think we're dissipating any fractals and we're coming back to boom, this. We're going right back to where we originated, but in a way that we've embodied and have had so many experiences, we're still expanding that origination. Does that make sense? They say God, there's no beginning, there's no end, is now and ever shall be, everything exists. But we get to have that experience as part of that as a human. And then I believe we take all of that experience and we add it back into that pure source that we originated from.
But do you see God as both light, like light, dark, and everything in between? Like tree, or the lion that kills the antelope, or
you need in our world, we have to have polarities. We have to have the darkness because that catalyzes the light. So my group, Master Light Blasters, I always say a master's light is activated through the darkness, because the darkness from a human perception is the unknown. It's limited. We don't know that information. So we come up against sometimes challenges, barriers, pain, darkness, unknowing. But that darkness serves our connection to our light. So it's everything. It's everything. God is everything. God is energy. We can just say God is energy. And within that energy, we have unlimited frequencies, and every frequency is a dimension into itself. So we can live at a limited frequency. So if you look back at maybe what your beliefs were growing up, they were probably more limited than what they are now, but they were true. They were true for then. And then certain areas seemed dark. So that acted as a catalyst. It's like taking two sticks, rubbing it together to spark that light within you. And in the imagination, you have to be open in that mind as well. You got to be open to it. If you're resistant and your mind isn't there, it doesn't matter what anyone says or what happens before you. it's not going to do anything if you're not open to that receiving. So as far as the lion killing the antelope, it's all working as one. It's all working as one. That energy, both of those energies actually reflect an aspect of ourself and our own inner energy. We are the lion and we are the antelope. We are the predator and we are the prey. There's so many areas within our own body. We can see how we attack ourselves, judge ourselves, but then maybe pull upon that free spiritual energy simultaneously. Everything operates as one unit. So in that also is releasing the idea of separation. Nothing is separate. Everything is operating symbiotically together for that greatest good. and it is really beautiful to think like that, because some people say, oh, you're not living reality. Look at the news. Look at this. Look at that. But what was that?
No, it's just like that's true. Yeah.
You know what? I love the reality that I live in, and I'm going to focus and honor my energy in that which brings me joy. Why do I want to pull back my frequency and engage in energies that I'm not being called to engage? And because that is me as well. That is me as well. So focusing on that light, or everything we need to know is before us, is what I believe. And I'll get everything I need as my learning tool to gain that insight. So we can look at the news that can represent our subconscious beliefs and fears that are all surfacing and rising. And if you've cleared a lot of that, then that world isn't as fearful for you. That world doesn't affect you in a way that it might have when you were younger. Like when I was young, I was scared to death of a World War III. I was scared to death of the world ending. I was scared of all of this stuff. And I'm like, if God really created all of it, what the hell, man? What the hell? Like, seriously, and he's love. Why are we going through this? But really, if we are God, we chose all of these scenarios, all of these experiences to really know and engage and expand and create, and to continue that the experience. It never ends. So as a human, we're very concentrated into a dense reality, and things seem really, really, really real. But it is that realness that actually causes that heaviness to get us to look within and to expand and connect to that light within us. So you guys, we really are masters. We're really, all of us watching now, and humans are masters. We chose this because we're so veiled too, and things seem so destructive, but that is because it's like the opposite is also true. We have come to end those ancestral cycles, be in that freedom and liberation in the physical form now. So everything surfacing, everything is, and whatever and however you see it is again showing you your own inner conflict or your own inner joy within. Like, I used to be scared to death of things on the news. Now I let it show me if it causes an imbalance or a yucky feeling within you. There's something there for you to gain, but in here. Like, I used to feel so bad when I hear about kids being tortured and all of that. And I mean, I would break down crying, and it was horrible. But now, from my understanding, as I realize, there's many different levels to every truth. So from one level, you can say they're beings that have contracted and they chose that to bring greater love and awareness to the world. And they made that quote unquote sacrifice. Or at another level, you can say, oh, that is just horrible. They're innocent. They're victims, and God is horrible. And then another level, you can say, that's a piece of me. What in myself is wounded? Where am I being a victim, or what part of my childhood is dead within me? So everything that we see is multi-layered, and every frequency is within it. It's like one drop of the ocean contains all of the information of the entire ocean.
Mm.
That flower, that incident, that rock, it all holds all of the information within us, but we will create the outer projection of what we need in order to bring that equilibrium, balance, and wholeness so that we can experience it on earth. I don't think we're going to have to die to have heaven. I think we are here to experience it through us because we're creating the projection. So the more we can take responsibility and face those hard feelings, cry your head off, whatever it is, the more you're opening yourself up to projecting that heaven and being whatever heaven is for you in the physical.
Yeah. I know what you mean. You know, because you mentioned the news, and you often hear people say, "Oh, turn off the news," etc. How do you? And I used to think that. I think, yeah, turn off the news because there's nothing but bad news or depressing news or whatever. But I thought, well, in a sense, it's all just basically how you perceive it. And I kind of realized that you can have it on, you can listen to it, but you can choose not to be affected by it. And that's kind of almost it's like a test, isn't it? How you can look at something, perceive something, and not let it affect you. Because if it affects you, then it's almost as if you're saying that you're a victim of that situation or that those energies. And whereas if you can learn to not be affected by something that you don't prefer, then you sort of almost you regain control over your own energy in a sense.
Yeah, I love what you just said, and there is no right or wrong. Everything is according to what you need or want to need consciously or subconsciously are needing. But you're going to realize that you've cleared an energy when something doesn't bother you anymore. I love the fact that you said sometimes it doesn't bother you. It's a test. I love the way you said that, because in our ascension or in our journey to self-realization, we will get an aha, we'll get a new concept, and it feels freeing and liberated, and we think we get it. And then, so we shift to a plateau, another level. And then within that level, within that new understanding, we are given the opportunity to embody that in the physical. What bothered you before, is it still bothering you? Are you still triggered? Are you still annoyed by that person? Does that still bug the hell out of you? Are you still scared when you flip on the news? So in a way, it's our test that we create for ourselves, because how are we reacting now or not reacting to it? And sometimes there are times where we do need to shut things off or turn away because it's too much for us to deal with, because there's just too much internal upheaval, too much for us to deal with. So there's appropriate times, and it's all individual, where you need to shut the news off because it was too much. You're processing a lot of other stuff right now. Then you can open up the door or look at it again at another point where you have embodied enough light now to handle it. You're strong enough. You've got the tools, the resources, the muscles now to handle things you used to not. So everything is appropriate for the frequency that one is embodying. And there are times, it's not that you're running away from yourself or shutting the outside world off. You're respecting that you just can't handle it right now, and that's okay. And then you go in, heal, clear, transmute energies. And then at another point, you can handle it. But you really know that you've done the clearing, the healing, and the integrating when that outside reflection, for me, ceases to exist, or you're not triggered by it. And that is beautiful as well, because it's almost like a reward for your work. Like, you get to have the physical experience of not being bothered by it anymore. And that really, it's nice. It's peaceful. It's like I was just thinking about this for myself the other day, and someone from the Masters group was asking me, do you really love yourself enough? What parts of yourself are you not loving and accepting? And there's always parts of myself I'm not, because I wouldn't be human if I'm not. But I'm not worried about getting it all done and wrapped up, because the journey will present what I need to work on in that moment. And and it never ends, and that's fine. I've accepted like the idea that, yeah, ultimately I want to accept and love myself fully, but I'm also okay with the idea that that I don't right now, because that's part of the journey. And I told her my worst fear would be that everything I channel, preach, or teach is bullshit. If all of that was bullshit, I said that would be my worst fear, if everything that I lived was bullshit. But then it hit me that I came to embody that very truth. I came to experience it, and I can't experience it or know it unless I experience the opposite of it. So if I believe everything at its source is love and everything is serving us, I'm going to have to go through some heavy duty shit to prove and to embody that theory, that knowing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the question. I keep getting to ask it, so not really related, but maybe there's a reason why I'm asking. So yesterday, there was a person I reached out to that I'd seen been posting on Facebook, and leave names out, obviously, but they're always asking for like money. They've got some medical issues, whatever. And so it's like, maybe the guys are like, you really shouldn't try to help. But I was like, I think I'm going to try. So I was like, there's all these websites that you can make money on. There's all these things you could do where you just actually have to work a physical job, because the person's always posting about needing food and a ride, and she has a child. So I felt really bad. And then the person like started attacking me, like spiritual ego, blah, 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 blah. Because, people like to go down that path when they don't have a real way to speak. And I didn't really I kind of took it personally, but I didn't take it too personally, because I kind of expected it. But what do you think the lesson is for me or her in that?
Okay. That's a really awesome example of like normal human engagements where it is obviously serving both parties. So when someone is triggered by you, you're reflecting a truth that they're not quite able to embody yet. It's just too much for them. It's like they can't go there yet, but yet that's where they are meant to go. So when you trigger someone, an ego, whatever, they're actually judging themselves for maybe not measuring up. There's a judgment or guilt within themselves, and not, it's unfounded. They don't need to be like that, but they're holding on to a belief system that tells them they're not good enough. So they're judging you and pointing the finger at you, and what they're doing is they're projecting. They are simply projecting. I believe whenever someone comes at you, it's a projection of an inner pain that they're not even conscious of. Now for you, it could be, and obviously that's not just one answer. There's many, but I don't know if you may be processing and coming to terms with any sort of lack beliefs, like, because that person seems like they're really in lack. They're not provided for. They're always asking for money. So they could be just bringing into your awareness areas where you may be holding on to lack beliefs, or they can also be bringing in to your awareness any guilt you may feel of not doing enough. So it's not verbatim. When we get a reflection, it's not verbatim exactly like that energy. Like if we're projecting someone attacking us, like this is what I'll do. I'll go into my self-analyzing mode and saying, oh my God, I am being selfish. I am bad. Oh my God, I don't even deserve to be on my group or whatever. And I'll go into that. But what they did for me was help me acknowledge those areas of guilt or shame or composites of misinformation within me that is yet to be expanded into truth.
Let me stop you though. Let me stop. If you don't mind, I mean interrupt you. But you're right. I did see in myself that there was more I could be doing. But obviously I reached out to her because I wanted to help her. And I've been thinking about it for weeks. But I was like, if I do this, dear God, I'm going to get a pushback. And she pushed back because I knew she was going to. But yeah, I think that's a lot of what people feel, is that when they're going through this, they're judging everyone around them. And it's like you're seeing aspects of yourself that you need to work on. So let's say I'm on a live feed and I'm being all rambunctious on TikTok or whatever. And I might remind someone of their ex-boyfriend who broke up with them. Might remind them of their father that walked away. I might remind them of this or that. It really has nothing to do with me. But then they'll be like, oh, that guy, it's too much. It's too masculine. It's too this, it's too that. Or even on the flip side of that, over the years, I've gotten quite a few. Well, it's like one stalker every 3 months. It's a little, I guess, that comes with social media, but or being in some kind of public eye. But the point is it's like, what are you seeing in me that's, you get where I'm going?
Oh my God. Yeah. So what that person is doing, they're bringing up some maybe subconscious insecurities within you, but they're just, you're a gift. You're holding space. You're being a representation for them of unhealed pain or trauma, like you just said. So it gives them the opportunity. It bubbles to their surface. They might not want to do anything with it. They're not even conscious of what the hell happened or why, but you are. And so you're just holding that space. So that gives you a perspective and even greater strength, wisdom, and knowledge, knowing why they are kind of charging or doing that to you. So you can not take it personally. And if you were taking it personally before, it was because there was greater truth for you to extract from that. Like you connected the dot. Well, they were, had a bad experience with a male figure. So that's perfect. So it's always working in symbiosis. It's working for both parties. It's never a line that's separate. And it can be working for both parties, obviously at different frequencies simultaneously for different reasons. But it all comes down to self-acceptance. So like, I know I felt guilty before, like, oh, I really should do more. I really should give that. I shouldn't have gone by that homeless person holding out their hand. And I do obviously give when I feel called to, but part of the spiritual community too is about accepting that, yeah, I don't feel like it right now, and that's okay. So accepting whatever you feel and being okay with it. There isn't God, if you want to go back to God, energy, yourself, there's no requirement from you. And I know we all hear that, but we're here to live that. So we can live that. There's no requirement by accepting truly where we are. And if you're truly called to help, excited about it. It's not like from a have to.
So do you think it all comes down to like the subconscious? Because there's so many different theories here. I mean, when I'm working with people, let's say I do a lot of entity removal. I do a lot of teaching. I do a lot of different things, but mediumship teaching, whatever. But let's say it's entity removal. I can't speak directly. Let's say I'm removing a negative energy from somebody. Okay, whatever that is. I don't always look to see what it is. I just get rid of it. So the point is, like, I don't want to get too much into client confidentiality, but what I noticed with a couple of clients was that once it was gone, they were still having issues. And I was like, wait a minute, especially the first time I saw it. I go, you've been subconsciously conditioned over years to think this thing is here. So even though I've removed it, you're still in your subconscious thinking it's there. So I have to almost convince their subconscious or get them to pattern break their subconscious is a better way.
I understand.
I would get them to pattern break their subconscious.
It's kind of like a phantom pain, kind of when you lose the arm, but you still feel it, and they do have their subconscious. But the way that healing, they always say we don't heal somebody, right? We're just holding that space for them, and they have to accept it. So there is something within them, subconscious, like you said, that perhaps they're still dealing with. But healing, like, because you're such a beautiful healer, healing for you, and I don't know if you're aware of it or would even believe this, but when you heal someone, they're giving you the opportunity to experience a healing that you've already done within yourself. So they always say a healer heals. They have to be their own self-healer before they can heal. So a healer gets the physical sensation of healing and helping someone else as a gift because they have done that for themselves. So if you're feeling that woman is projecting something coming back, and you don't have to have the answer or, but if nothing is outside of us, what in yourself or in your subconscious is still there? Does that make sense? Something, and it's never condemnation. It's never what are you.
What I would see is they would, I don't know if they found me on Facebook, so I'd be careful what I say, but they're actually being pushed around by this thing. Like it was moving them physically.
Physically.
Yeah, so like I knew it was gone. Like I had removed all this stuff, but then once I saw it, I was like, wait a minute. Like this doesn't jive anymore. Cause I'm like, guys, is it gone? They're like, yeah, that thing's long gone. And I'm like, but I'm still being moved. And then I'm like trying to get the person, this is different people. I'd be careful about client confidentiality, but I'm like, I got to get them to shift their energy because when I'm looking at them, they're still on this lower density scale of energy. So how do I get them, let's say they're dressed in all black or whatever, how do I get them to stop watching horror movies? How do I get them to stop dressing in all black? How do I get them to shift this focus so I can get them into like a different frequency, as Jimmy would say, a different frequency, a different like subconscious belief system? You get where I'm going.
Yeah, there's many different layers to that. So as a healer, you want to shift them. If you want to look, what came to me immediately when you said that was it's not your job. But I know from your perspective, it is your job. They are paying you, you're healing them.
Yeah.
But you are being called to embody a higher level of this healing energy. So it's not your job, first of all. Spirits coming through right now, and they're saying they are actually serving you, Thomas. They're saying they are serving you. They are helping you in your growth, expansion, and you, no matter what you do, you're not going to take that away from them. And if you want to look at it, they're saying from the just strictly another layer, a more surfacey layer of you helping them is they're saying the same thing. It's not your job. You can hold the space, you can reflect that healed energy, but if you're considering them something separate from you, they're saying you're actually holding yourself back by thinking your subject matter is separate from you. I don't know if that makes sense to you. I'm just bringing through what's coming through. They are not separate from you.
The
And
client or the, what do you mean?
What was that?
What do you mean they are not separate from you? I'm trying to
They
understand.
are representative of an aspect of your own energy. They are a gift for you to demonstrate and to experience your own healing that you have done within. No one has a power outside of them. So if you are helping them, they are ready for that reflection. If you are not helping them, they are not ready to receive that. But ultimately, it is not your job to heal them. It is your job just to be the healing. And then if they're not ready to receive your healing fully, it's not your job to shift it or to change it, or it's acceptance. They're saying there's a lesson here in acceptance. And it's not that you're doing anything wrong. It's almost like your soul, your being is being called into a greater love of self. And that greater love, the lack of love of self within, meaning there could be some area and it's not bad and it's not good and it is as it should be in this moment of now, is being projected onto the one that you are healing. You are being called into a greater acceptance of self-love. And when we're striving or struggling with something outside of us, it is a struggle that is subconscious. So it does go back to the subconscious, but within yourself. It is within yourself. So I'm questioning and talking to spirit as that's coming through. And I'm like, oh my God, what are people going to say about that? What do you mean? What do you mean? Aren't healers supposed to heal? Aren't we here to help each other? We're being called in humanity, and as a healer and as a spiritual community, we're shifting into that next plateau. We're shifting beyond not being healed or beyond any idea of separation, even as a healer. We don't heal outside of us. When we do, when we see that, it is a gift for us to experience our healing, our energy work that we are embodying. So if we're not getting that on the outside of us, there's a place we're calling to greater acceptance within ourselves. And it is, a lot of times it is not conscious. It's not conscious. There's nothing is wrong with the world. Nothing needs healing. We need to come to greater self-acceptance. Nothing is outside of us. Everything outside of us is an aspect of our own energy, giving us an opportunity to engage, to communicate with ourself. And we get that opportunity to connect with subconscious parts of ourselves through our world. Our world gives us everything we need. And this, in the past, this would be called selfish. This would be called just crazy. And what do you mean the world's not separate? I can touch that tree. It sure as hell feels separate, but that tree is an extension of my own energy, and I get to experience it in the physical at a dense level. People are opportunities to connect, to engage, to communicate with aspects of ourselves. So my greatest challenge is my husband, okay? Is my husband. And nothing challenges me more energetically. And what I realized today when I was running is I have such a hard time with him because I have a hard time being gentle with myself. I don't, based on childhood trauma of, having to measure up and expectations, I don't allow myself to be weak. I realize I don't allow myself to be lazy. I don't allow myself these things that bug me in him. And yet, I'm projecting it through my own criticism at him, where it's nothing to do with him. If he, yeah,
you nag him, do you?
Say that again.
You nag him.
Oh, sometimes, yeah, I do nag him, and that's funny because I do nag him because I think things have to be a certain way because I was brought up that way. So I need to learn a sense of release and control. So you're absolutely right. So I can't say, oh my God, the dog shit in the house again. Can't you freaking let him out? Damn it. What the hell, man? Why do I gotta pick this up? So, but it's not even about the dog. It's not about him. It's about me, my own energy with myself, needing that control. And even the shit, I realize a lot of areas in my life where I don't have those healthy boundaries of respect, honoring my energy. I get shit on sometimes, it's just family and kids and those closest to you. So even dog shit, even like a window breaking, whatever it is, it's telling you something about yourself.
Yeah.
And our greatest challenges and pains and the things that irk us, as you guys both know, are those things that trigger us. That's where our pain is. That's where our pain and trauma. The more it affects us energetically, that is a beautiful for us to go within.
I think with relationships, it's like, I say this all the time. My friend says this. When you get in a relationship with someone, my opinion at least, over years of relationships, you kind of have to accept them where they're at.
Exactly. I don't accept myself where I'm at, so I couldn't accept him where he's at. You nailed it. Exactly.
And just going to say hello to a few people. We've got a few comments before we go any further. Stephanie's from the Master Light Blasters group.
Oh, that's my sister-in-law.
She says, Ria sees divine abundance in everything. She opens herself to all learning and takes courage in the higher viewpoints from the heart. Gina says, yes, all we can do is plant the seed, as Kimmy said. Hey, Kimmy. Hey, Gina. Hey. Kimberly says, that's it right there. Rewired. I think it's Thomas when you were speaking about. She says rewire the neurotransmitters of the patterns, and then cells regenerate. It's DNA code strands, patterns, and that's what's learned about belief systems.
Which we're breaking, and it's hard.
Michelle says, Mr. Trigger. Speaking of Thomas, hey Dina.
But it's like one thing I see though, Jimmy's
there you go. That's all right. I'm just
One thing I've noticed lately doing healings, I don't know, I just feel like bringing it up, but I keep seeing a person's like a computer interface in their back, so I have to rewire it. It's interesting. Me and a couple other healers, we're seeing all these. It's usually when they're working on me, they're telling me, because they're like, we've never seen this until we work on you, which whatever reason that is. But point is that they're like, there's all this like computer stuff going on, like what their guides are showing them. But it's getting like more expansive the way you're seeing like healing and stuff of that nature. Because to me, Rhea, energy is like the most beautiful thing imaginable. Like the psychic stuff and all that's great. Like I love doing it, but to me, energy is all that really matters.
Oh, so beautiful. It's
like working with energy, like going, talking to different energies.
You're talking about the computer board sparking, like connecting. That's how a lot of times I see energy as well. It's like, but I might just talk about it differently. I call it pathways of light, these connections. And that's actually representative from my perspective and what Spirit shares with me is our multi-dimensional self opening up and becoming online. So those areas of misinformation that we've been holding onto within our cellular memory are being healed, activated now. And what it is, it's a connection opening up. It's another light, and everything is interwoven and connected and sparking. And that's to me also what it means to embody the light, energy, God, whatever you want to call it. It's all coming online as you call it healing and healing, but clearing, transmuting the limited information. And what it really is setting it free into the light. Now it can move and connect, and everything is connected with each other. So it's like they just show me like almost like constellations in the sky, but like stuff coming alive and connecting and opening up. And then you can make past, present, and future. As you guys know, it's all exists now. There's only the now. But we have memories of experiences, information that we're holding on to that we have come to free up. So as a healer, that's exactly what you're doing. You're freeing up the misinformation so that light may flow and connect and then open up those and everything is connected. So other aspects, multidimensional experiences held within your cellular memory, then when you open up, it connects to another. Then you understand yourself, or you receive a gift, or you have a talent, or all of a sudden you're just different because you freed up and released a limiting composite within you. So as a healer, that's what you're doing. You're freeing up the energy. What a beautiful, I can't think of a more beautiful like soul path. Freeing up the energy.
Yeah, totally. Stephanie says, would too much in the mind matter blocks our pure potential? And then she says, would Rhea like support? And I'm not quite sure what she means by that. But I've got a question from Karina. Hi, Karina. Also, hi, Sandy. Karina says, and we were talking about this a little not too long ago. Any tips on relationships when it comes to healing along with your partner?
Thomas.
I'm
going through it.
Get a therapist. No, let me think. That's a hard one, man, because I think a lot of times, honestly, my opinion is that people will try to I don't try to do this anymore. I used to. I will try to make someone into what I used to try to make them into what I felt they needed to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Or what was comfortable for me.
Exactly.
And I realized I couldn't really do that. I mean, I could tell them what issues I was having. I mean, let's say, for instance, I have ADHD. So someone that's in a relationship with me is going to have to understand ADHD. They're going to have to do a deep dive to understand there's triggers that I have all over the place about my ADHD, and how to deal with that as a person. But therein lies the thing. It's like, well, I can give you the information, but I can't make you take it.
Yes.
It's like if they want to do it, they'll do it. If they don't, they don't. And that's okay either way.
Yeah, it is about knowing don't expect, like you said earlier, changing them, accepting them for who they are. And seeing, I think it's a beautiful approach to take, is seeing yourself in them, and especially those areas that that are triggering or upsetting you, or for me personally, relationships, they are beautiful. They reflect the most beautiful pieces of me, but they can also reflect the other areas that maybe I didn't want to face within myself. So there's a big thing in acceptance, and obviously, normal stuff like communicating, but really accepting. And what happens a lot of times is relationships and those closest to us will trigger the childhood traumas of where we didn't feel loved, or where we felt abandoned, or where we felt not good enough. And when that's happening, that relationship, it is a huge healing happening within yourself. And I'm not saying obviously to suffer or go through things. There is no right, there is no wrong. Everyone is an individual. Every circumstance is different. But listening to that little voice within you, and sometimes, you know what, you want to break, you whatever, or then you go back or whatever. But it's about it's also about respecting, obviously, that your own energy. I'm assuming you're in a good, loving relationship. You love the person because you're asking for advice. So it means and shows that you want to work on it. And just it really helps to see yourself in the other person, because ultimately that's what they're doing. They're showing us ourselves.
Beautiful. Sandy says, the wounds of the divine feminine and masculine show up in relationship as opportunities for healing if we so choose to accept the mission.
Oh my God, it's so true. And right now, I mean, more than ever, because we are integrating and we're healing those huge wounds of separation of divine masculine and the divine feminine. And I see that being played out in my relationship all the time. Like, even with my husband, like, not being heard. And he like was accusing me of, it's the other way around, accusing me of, you don't hear me, you don't ever hear me, you don't ever hear me, I don't feel anyone hears me. So to me, he and a lot of men are going through actually a divine feminine healing within them, tuning into their emotions, their heart, their pain, and their trauma as well, and healing in that divine masculine, the imbalanced part. Like, as we all know, them tuning in, becoming more sensitive, not pushing and snowballing or bulldozing over energies that have been programmed in them. Just, it's really beautiful, because the men, masculine men or women, that energy is really becoming more in tune with that water, that emotion, that healing, that flow. And that's where life stems from, is from water. We need to accept what we're feeling in that flow. And yeah, it's just,
I saw something a little while ago that said that I mean, I don't know how true this is. I just saw it and I thought that's interesting. But it said something like along the lines of men don't share things because they're not listened to, or something like that, or they feel like they're not listened to, or something along those lines, which is why they don't share as much as, say, what women do. And why they don't share anything, or not anything, but why they don't share as much with women, because they're used to not being listened to by women. I don't know if that's true.
well, yeah, it's true for
It
my
probably
husband.
goes both ways sometimes, but I thought it was quite an interesting. I'd never really thought about that before. But...
Yeah, so my husband tells me, he says, that's why I don't tell you anything. That's why I don't tell you anything.
All right.
That's why I feel like I can't talk to you. So yeah, it's not, it's both. It's that masculine and that feminine. I think I'm healing you don't have to be, you could be, obviously we hold both energies. So for me too, there's definitely a masculine energy within me that I'm healing as well.
And Stephanie says, ask Rhea what her runs mean for her. So Rhea, what do your runs mean for you?
Well, runs for me are like, it's just active meditation. It's a place where I release and I open up. And like you guys were talking about earlier about programming, to me, it's my spiritual practice, and that becomes a muscle memory. So as soon as I start running, because I've been doing it for so long, I don't do marathons or anything, guys. It is that muscle memory. It's that release. It's that time that I connect to the highest available to me. And to me, that is divine love source. And I might be questioning things in my mind, and boom, I get the answer. Boom, I get the answer. So it is really, really important to honor whatever you consider a spiritual practice, and then creates that opening. And it just works. It just works. It's like muscle memory. The floodgate opens. So when I go running, the floodgate opens. That's why I love my like Rhea on the Runs or my 1 minute TikTok. Just everyday life. For me, gaining wisdom on everyday life, because that's the life we're living, guys. Everyday life. It's that stuff that I want the answers to. I want the highest spiritual information in the most mundane things, and because that's what we're living. We're physical. That's what we're doing. But just because it's mundane, there's so much power in it. So anyways, yeah, it's active meditation for me. It's a way of muscle where the floodgate opens, and it's just where I free my mind. I free my mind.
Yeah, it's just a
Okay,
form
guys,
of
I apologize, Miss Rhea, Mr. Jimmy. I'd messaged Jimmy so he knew. I gotta go grab some medication, but before the pharmacy closes. But I want to say thank you for being here, Miss Rhea. Hopefully we have you back, and Jimmy will take over.
So much, and thank you for you, and thank you for all you do, and thank you for your love of energy and just being open and allowing and expressing and embodying it, and really, pushing that out of you and helping the reflection in your world. So thank you. And teeth stuff. I'm not gonna go there.
Yeah.
Take care, brother. Right, just me and you then, Rhea.
Any other questions or comments?
Hold on. Yeah, 1 second. Let me just sort the. There we go. Kimberly says, hold on. I have ADHD as well. My partner and I have what you call gifts, and so do some of our children. Communication and acceptance is huge. She does yoga and qigong. Oh,
so I'm glad that you read her comment, because I did want to touch upon ADHD or ADD, and when Thomas was bringing that up, what that is, and I get all tingly like when there's like really strong truths. When that first came out, people thought there were problems with kids and stuff like that, but really it's us actually coming online with more of that light, more of that connections, being more open and available to our multidimensional self. So I totally relate to that. I definitely have some of that myself, but it's the ability also to process quickly, but we're also aware and connecting to all of these other I'm just going to use multi-dimensions, but other aspects and frequencies within us that we're able to bring through us now. And absolutely gifts, talents. And when that first, it just shows the evolution of humanity, as far as I'm concerned, because, kids used to be, try to be tempered in that, but obviously helping them to channel and to work with their energy and appropriately is obviously useful, in everyday life. So their soul might have come to get that, like channeling that information and channeling their energy appropriately. That's healthy for them. But oh my God, so yeah, such a gift. All my kids, I tell my kids are special needs in some way, shape, or form. But to me, it's really beautiful because it's also reflecting the gifts opening up in myself that I might not have been aware of, or aspects of myself I might have judged in the past. So really, it's just it's just a beautiful calling for greater acceptance. And nowadays, every kid has something, right? Because they're opening up, but science or the past aren't opened up, or the information of the past is limited to what people are embodying now. So everything's shifting, and they're portals of light and information. We all are.
Yeah. Hey, Donna, by the way. I saw something, I think it was Bashar who said, someone asked him about autism, and Bashar said something like, they're giving people an opportunity to show what it's like for those with autism. Are giving people an opportunity to see what it's like to actually live in the moment and to be fully involved in that, in the present moment, and to enjoy life and to be an example of that experience. And it's kind of, I thought, well, that kind of makes sense. To me anyway. And I like Bashar. I think
yeah, Bashar is my absolute favorite spiritual teacher. And yeah, definitely bringing a greater presence to the moment, even though in a lot of ways they're taking on a lot of this information and multidimensionality, but they're connecting it in the moment of now. So even though like, or ADHD could seem like scattered, but it's really, they are holding lots of pockets of information in this now moment. So yeah, I got a couple kids too that are from as well.
It's like extra focused, rather than sort of being here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah, it's a big, it's a big spectrum. So yeah, not all autism, big spectrum.
Donna says, what about bipolar / manic depression? Do you have any thoughts on those?
Yeah, I have thoughts on those. My son, one of my sons, is definitely exhibits a lot of that. And to me, it's about integrating those fractalized pieces of oneself and getting kind of split or caught in one way or the other. I mean, I can only speak, I don't have it, but what I demonstrate and see, there's an integration going on. There's an integration, an awareness of these aspects of self that are not integrated. That's how I see it. And it is a gift. It's a beautiful gift because they've taken that soul journey to integrate, taken that going through the process in their journey to integrate all of those aspects of themselves, kind of like mental, we'll say chemical imbalance, mental disorders. They're not, they're real, they're energetic, and it's representative of the energies of the unseen they are processing or integrating and dealing.
That's interesting you mentioned about it's interesting you mentioned about chemical imbalances, because I remember seeing I watched a few episodes or interviews that a guy, a psychiatrist called Jerry Marzinski did. And he talks about, he interviewed people, or he had patients of people who claimed they heard voices. And he mainly, I think he was in sort of prisons and penitentiaries and stuff like that. Because a lot of inmates were sort of considered mentally unstable and they heard voices. And he kind of was saying that the explanation that was given was that they had chemical imbalances in the brain. And this was just taken for sort of as read by those in the profession. Whereas he questioned it, and apparently he said, well, what chemicals are imbalanced? And it turns out, according to him, that there were no tests ever done. And so they didn't know what chemical, if there were chemical imbalances and what those chemicals were. So to say that there was chemical imbalances is actually false, because there were no tests done to check what chemical, if there were the chemical imbalances, what the chemicals were. It was just something that was said to kind of like pacify or to explain it, but there was no actually proof of it, which I found quite interesting. And there's people like that who question narratives and question things that are said and generally accepted by, you know, the most of the people in a profession or even outside the profession, that I tend to like to listen to, because they have that inquisitive mind and they're willing to go deeper, investigate further into things.
Yeah, I love that, because they were listening to their discernment, their quiet, tiny little voice. And we're all called to not just accept things verbatim for what you see. And one thought the world was solid, but it's not solid. And it's always in flux. Our reality is in flux as we grow, as our thoughts change, our definitions and labels. We give it the definition, the labels, the information based on the frequency of our lens that we're seeing. So I love that. So things might have seemed like term negative in the past due to the lack of light or information or discernment or inner guidance and connection. And now it's like, it's gifts. It's beautiful. We can see how everybody truly is playing a part through their own in their own journey, and it's all beautiful, and it's just beautiful to see it in that way, where then that brings so much respect to everybody living their journey, because everyone is here, I believe, for the light, for the freedom, the liberation of the soul, and to experience, not that we're not free, you know what I mean? That, ultimately everything is perfect, everything is as it should be, and it is. But if you believe God is life or energy is always expanding, then that's why we experience what we do, to continue that expansion.
Actually, one of the first sort of books, channeling books I read, I think it might have even been the first, was The Law of One, the Ra material, and in it they explained why everything is perfect, and because we always go on about imperfection and being perfect, and this is not perfect, or that's not perfect, and I that was sort of the first thing that made me question about a lot of things that when I read that, I thought, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, that everything is already perfect.
And that brings such a huge not just self, but acceptance in life, doesn't it? If everything is perfect, nothing needs to change. That's acceptance. Funny part is, then life changes to match that. You know what I mean? Because our frequency lens just changed. Like, oh wow, everything really is perfect. What's that do to our state of being? And then we create that projection in our world. So really, it all comes down to acceptance.
So, hey, Gabrielle says, Ria, so nice to see you here. And on that note, I think it's a good note to finish with. So, Ria, do you want to just remind us of where you are, how people can sort of follow you or get in touch with you?
Yeah, sure. It's just Ria Barnas, my Facebook page. I do have a link tree, Temple of the Sun, and the Master Light Blasters. So if you do like going deep and you like these kind of subject matters, truth seeking, liberation, freedom, as Stephanie said earlier, abundance of love in everything. Love is available in everything. Just ask to join the Master Light Blasters group. It's just a private group where it's small and intimate. But yeah, Master Light Blaster group, Temple of the Sun, obviously TikTok, Ria Barnett TikTok. And I do readings and oracles and intuitive guidance, like also.
Beautiful. To finish, Gina says, we are all explorers in the adventure of life. It's not the destination, it's the adventure.
Plays such a good, I'm sorry, I just wanted to say something about that. It is the journey, because it never ends, but the journey in every step is an opportunity to embody and feel that expansion. Like, life gives us the real experience of our spiritual energy.
Marvelous. And I'll let Stephanie have the last word. She says, we're intrinsic networks of both spiritual and energy and intelligence to experience greater greatness in change. So
we are
on that note,
thank you.
Thank you so much, Ria, for joining us. It's fabulous as always. And thank you everyone for watching and for interacting and everything. And we'll see you all soon.
That was fun. Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you,
Take care,
Tom.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.